in that meeting I had with Tao the other day, they paid out, I think, $4.7 billion in claims in the last 12 months. So it was like, it's a huge amount of money they're paying out. And Tao's the biggest in Australia, so they're paying out the biggest amount of claims.
Look at you, straight from the memory.
Yeah, my whole book, this book is full of notes. I write down all the time. Yeah, $4.7 billion, which is a huge amount of money, unfathomable. But it is a big safety net for all Australians to have this insurance in place. A big portion of those claims is for income protection. So those short-term things, most people think it's life insurance that they're paying out on, but it's actually income protection is a huge amount of claims. Hello, welcome back to another episode of This Week is Skye. I am on location, which is quite exciting. I am up at Newcastle this week at the Money podcast. And this week again, we've got Ash Campbell. Thanks for joining me, Ash.
Hey, Phil. Good to see you virtually.
Yes. So we've got a pretty cool setup. You can see me, I can see you, which is exciting. How was your week last week?
I had a good week. It was going through our new process change with the pre-assessment, getting used to that one. And then a few client meetings. TAL have been holding ethics months, so went along to that webinar, got some CPD for ethics and, yeah, more of the usual. How was your week, Phil?
Yeah, good. I went to a TAL lunch. Actually, while you're doing ethics webinars, I went to a lunch with them, which was good. Talked about a whole bunch of things that are happening in the industry, which is exciting. But today, first up, we're going to talk about mental health. So last week we touched on mental health, through discussions with insurers, that it's a big bugbear for them and how they're going to manage it moving forward. But talk to us about a KPMG report that they did, I think it was late last year.
Yeah, November 2024, they did a report, Australia's Mental Health Checkup. And so there's all sorts of stats on how the mental health world is looking at this point in time, how it's changed over the last decade. And so some of the key insights from this report was that the age of a mental health claim is decreasing, whilst the amount of people with a mental health condition is increasing. We have people getting disabled at a younger age, so people going on a permanent disability claim younger and younger. I think you touched on it last week, Phil. They're sitting around the 30 to 40 year range. And it's a larger risk for white collar workers as opposed to other forms of disablement, probably lean more blue collar. Mental health claim is leaning white collar. There is 58% more likelihood of a man becoming permanently disabled as a result of mental health. Whereas if we're looking at just a temporary disablement, it's still pretty even between the genders. But when we're looking at that longer term permanent disablement case, that one's targeting the men, which is quite curious. And then claims are longer. So as we were talking about last week with the TPD situation, all of the insurers looking at how they're going to change their TPD products, it's because these mental health claims are going for longer and longer, and it's harder to assess the likelihood of someone being able to return to work.
Yeah, and there's this interesting dynamic in insurance because the insurance companies, they pay out on claims for mental health, which is fantastic and kind of what we need the insurance market to be able to do, but they're paying out more and more claims. So they're just trying to work out how do we be sustainable without, because, the thing with insurance, it's at its simplest is we all put money into a bucket. When someone needs the money, they pull it out of the bucket. And, as a community, we all put into that. And so if there's higher claims, it just means more people are pulling money out. So therefore, as a community, we're going to put more money in. So it's one of these things that, a lot of, our clients that we talk to about mental health exclusions and how they're managing it, people feel like it's unfair and it's unreasonable, which, can seem that way. But there's always this balancing act between making sure that the whole pool of, community members who are insured is being protected from a premium point of view, as well as, how do they make sure they're still covering it as well. So is there any other stats from the report that you found interesting?
Yeah, as you're talking about the financial side of things, obviously from the insurance perspective, the finances where the biggest interest is. And so claims are up 129% for temporary disablement. And for permanent disablement, it's up 430%. So big increase in the last decade. and the amount of the claim is increasing too. So that's up about 30% for both.
And it's one of these things, insurance companies, they always just they've got to price the future, and they're always predicting what the future is going to look like. And so, when they do their models and the actuaries, crunch the numbers, and, 10 years ago, they were pricing a certain risk that they didn't assume was going to be as bad as it is today. And so that's kind of the difficulty with pricing mental health and a condition. We don't know if it's going to get even worse in the future or if it's going to improve. It's one of those kind of unknowns, which is the joys of an insurance company.
Yep, it would be a tough job to be an actuary. But speaking of stats, APRA released quarterly statistics on the insurance world. I believe you've had a bit of a look at that this week, Phil.
I do. So APRA is the insurance company, insurance regulator. So they regulate all Australian insurers. I actually love looking at these stats, and I've looked at them for like years because they come out every quarter and they talk about profitability of insurers. So some things that I find interesting is, being a customer of an unprofitable business is good for the period of time that, that they're still in business for, but it's unsustainable. So, and being unprofitable means that you're getting a better value than the cost that you're paying for it. But when it comes to insurance, it's a long-term purchase. We want to hold these policies. I've held my insurance policies for like 12, 13 years, and I'm going to hold them for another, 30 years. So I want to make sure they're sustainable, they're profitable as a business, without being wildly profitable. That's also not ideal. But there is a balance. And so, APRA, what they do is they collate everyone's numbers together and they talk about profitability of the whole industry. So last quarter, the insurance companies, collectively, all the insurance companies made $5.7 billion in revenue. And so that is a big number. It's a billion with a B. But then after all their insurance claims, or all the money that flows out in terms of their cost, collectively they made $332 million of profit. Now, if I was quick enough and smart enough to work out that percentage, it's like, what's the number? It's probably it's like 6% margins on their business. And most businesses, if you've got a 6% profit margin, you're skirting very close to the line. And so, so that's their profit. And last quarter prior to this one, they actually lost money. Minus $15 million as the whole industry. So it is one of these things that I look at from a sustainability. So one of the biggest future predictors of premium increases is the insurance company's profitability. And there's a heap of things that come into play when it comes to profitability. It's how many claims are being paid out. It's how much their investment revenue is earning them, because a big chunk of their revenue does come from investment earnings as well. Yeah, so it's always something I look at literally every quarter. I look at those stats and see, okay, is it profitable? Are they losing money? Because it'll just tell if we're going to have these conversations with all our clients about premium increases. So that's a bit of interesting fact that I always keep an eye on when it comes to future premiums.
I think it's interesting that you say last quarter it was at a loss, because I would imagine most people walking around just thinking about insurance would assume that it's a highly profitable business. Most people are, they're paying their premiums, don't have a large exposure to the sort of claims. So to know that it was unprofitable last quarter is quite interesting.
Yeah, and that's right. And a lot of people, they think, insurance companies, they price their own products, at almost at any price. It feels like at any price they want. And if anyone's held their life insurance policies over the last few years, you would have seen, increase after increase after increase. But these companies just aren't making us good in dollars. Like, they're paying out a huge amount of claims. Actually, in that meeting I had with Tao the other day, they paid out, I think, $4.7 billion Tao paid out in claims in the last 12 months. So it was like, it's a huge amount of money they're paying out. And Tao's the biggest in Australia, so they're paying out the biggest amount of claims.
Look at you, straight from the memory.
There you go. Yeah, my whole book, this book is full of notes. I write down all the time. Yeah, $4.7 billion, which is a huge amount of money, unfathomable. But it is a big safety net for all Australians to have this insurance in place. A big portion of those claims is for income protection. So those short-term things, most people think it's life insurance that they're paying out on, but it's actually income protection is a huge amount of claims. So next up, what we're going to talk about is we did a survey. Ash, you wouldn't have even seen the survey. Did you see the survey?
No, I only heard you guys talking about it in the office and never got around to opening it up myself.
Yeah, there's always something fun when you survey our clients because it's always a bit nerve-wracking. We get great feedback, but talk to me about, you've looked at the results now. Talk to me about some of the takeaways that you looked at.
Yeah, so one of the questions asked was, how would you rate your original experience with Skye? And about 88%, if I'm guessing, said gave it 5 stars, so 4.8 on average for that, which is very high. Sounds like most people are enjoying their experience as they're coming through. Similarly, for their most recent experience with us. And then, yeah, most of the people that did complete the survey had interacted with us within the last 12 months, which is interesting too.
Yeah, that's right. And some of the other things that we looked at. So we asked about questions like, we do a lot of work in the background, kind of engaging other professionals, that may help our clients. And we've been relatively passive. So when clients reach out and say, "Oh, do you have support in, do you have a financial advisor, holistic advisor I can speak to, or an accountant or a mortgage broker?" We've got connections there, so we can make really good introductions. But we've been pretty passive about that. And when we build out these partnerships, we don't really go back to our clients and say, "Hey, we've got this new partnership," and you can engage them. But that was one of the questions that we did ask is, hey, if we do continue to build out these third party professional networks, would you like us to keep you updated? And 57% of our clients said, yeah, love to be told. If you guys do your due diligence, you approve them, you're happy with them, then love to hear about what you're doing, which is interesting because I naturally would have thought that people would be like, well, I'll reach out if I want someone, but leave me alone otherwise.
The other interesting side of it is most of our clients are coming through podcasts where those podcasts have those same connections as well. So interesting to know that they're happy to receive that information from us as well, whilst they're probably receiving it from the podcasts that they avidly listen to.
Yeah, exactly. So good. All in all, positive survey result, which again, as I said, I'm always nervous. I'm a very optimistic human being, but I always make sure I think about the downside of these. But yeah, it's 4.8% out of 4.8 out of 5 stars for most of our clients, which is great. But as a part of the survey, what we did was we offered a prize. And so we said for everyone who fills out the survey goes in the chance to win $500. So we're going to do it here live. Now we're remote, so we're going to see how this works. But Peter, can you hook us up? So we've got this random name generator. So we put everyone's first names in there and the number that the cell corresponds to. So we're not breaking anyone's privacy. But the winner is Thin. Awesome. Well, we'll reach out to Thin and congratulations. You won $500. It was $500, yeah? Am I making that up?
That's what I'm seeing in front of me, and I'm getting the thumbs up. No lies.
Part of me just freaked out thinking that we offered 200 and I just upped it to 500. But either way, we'll do the 500 anyway. All right, congratulations. And we'll reach out to you somehow. And thank you for everyone for filling out the survey. It really does help us know where we need to improve and gives us kind of the pat on the back for the team for all the hard work that we're doing to help serve our clients. So thank you very much. Next up, we've got Ash's Baking Corner. Now, the worst thing about being away is I don't get to taste Ash's Baking Corner. So, Ash, you've baked something this week. Now, Peter, what have we got? Can I see? I can't see it. What is that?
This week we have so all of the baking is from all of it's from the Nordic baking book. So in Swedish it's chokoladssnitta, which translates to chocolate slice. They're basically brownie biscuits, I reckon.
All right, I'm gonna try and be as consistent as you are, Phil.
Let's go. Is it brownie on the inside? Give me a look at the inside. Oh, my goodness. What ranking we got?
I need to put a disclaimer right off the bat.
Yeah.
I love brownies. Like,
Okay.
and if it's a brownie, a brownie without a nut in it, I love it even more.
Do they not have nuts, Ash?
This is just sliced, so it's just a biscuit. No choc chips either.
This is perfection for me. So
Oh.
my rating is going to be really high. I just want everyone at home to realize if you don't like brownies as much as I do, take 2 or 3 points off. I'm giving this a solid 8.5. So thank you very much, Ash.
8.5 out of 10.
When I say I love brownies, I really love brownies.
Yeah, but why not more than 8.5? That feels like a...
Nothing's perfect.
So tell me what's wrong with them. Are they dry? Are they...
I think Ash is right. A little grainy. Perhaps the flour choice was not on point. Just saying.
It's actually the sugar.
The sugar? Okay, good. But everything else is great.
To show you how little I know about baking, is there flour in brownies?
Yeah. These have flour in them. I was saying, yeah, that's for you. I was saying in the office, I'm a little bit worried about this week's baking. And then when I heard that you weren't in, I was like, brilliant. I'm not going to get as savaged as I deserve because the sugar is grainy.
I actually like brownie. It's one of the few brownies that one of the few baked goods that I'm like, actually, I'm all in on.
Ruby was saying the same thing. Fascinating.
But I'm probably would have pegged you down for no choc chips because that's kind of the best thing about the brownies is finding those choc chips.
This isn't meant to be brownie though. That's the thing.
Okay.
They're like brownies. They're biscuits. Well, it's a slice.
Right.
It's not brownie.
Got it. Well, I'm back in the office tomorrow, so if there's one left over, I'm just saying it'll get eaten.
I brought the whole box in, but I think Poddy's going to polish it
It may
off.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. All right, Ashley, talk to me about a client story. How'd you go this week or last week?
Yeah, so I'm working on a slightly interesting one again this week. Always something new and different going on. What most people probably aren't that aware of is that there's different clauses in your superannuation insurance. And so some super funds, if you're getting paid out income protection, you could have income protection with a retail insurer and still get access to 70% of your income. Whereas the insurance that I was looking at this week, the super fund for this client was going to offset any amount that they received. So if we recommended 70% of income protection through a retail insurer and they were going to get paid $1,000 from their own super fund, well, they wouldn't actually get that $1,000 because they have a full amount already in the super fund, with the retail insurer. I feel like I haven't gone about explaining this in the best way though.
I get it. So the group is $1,000 a month. No, and then let's say we can replace $7,000 a month. Normally, we just take out a second policy that goes to that is $6,000. So collectively, they're $7,000. But
because of the super fund that this client has, if we recommended $6,000, they wouldn't pay the $1,000.
So they offset any other income that you're getting gets offset.
So that can include your annual leave, any sort of income entitlements, everything. So there's a lot to take into consideration when looking at clients that already have cover through their super. It's not just as simple as, just top it up.
Yeah. And so a question I have is why don't we just get rid of that super insurance? Why are we keeping it?
Here at Skye, for most people, their cover that they already have doesn't have any exclusions on it. But most people, they've lived a life. We have some exclusions, maybe a back, maybe mental health, as we were talking about earlier. And so because of these exclusions, we want to make sure they still have access to cover without any exclusions on it, even if it is only a small portion of their income.
And it's just it again goes to show why being an expert is good, because this offset clause is not that easy to understand. Fortunately, we do it all day, every day. So when we see a certain super fund, we know, okay, that income protection is going to offset any, is going to go down to zero if there's any other payments. So again, great job.
What have you been looking at this week?
Yeah, I had a chat when speaking about that KPMG report. I had an interesting conversation with a client of ours last week who is going to be claiming on income protection for mental health, and so they're unable to go back to work, and they haven't met their waiting period yet. So they're still within the first 90 days of that incident. But we had a conversation about, okay, hypothetically, if I could never go back to that job that I was in, would I be able to get a total permanent disablement payment because they've got own occupation TPD. And we were talking about like kind of the nuances with regards to, being able to go back to work, how long they'd need to be off work for. But it was a really interesting case because in their current job, they do very specific work that was the cause of the mental health condition. And so, being back in that environment is, obviously, really difficult. And so, we're not sure if they'll be able to go back into that environment again. So it was this interesting conversation, number one, about own occupation TPD and why that's important that we've got it, just to capture some of those things, because if they go back into another workplace doing similar work, their income will drop significantly, what they're currently working. The other thing we talked about is it was a workplace incident and the workers' compensation's only paying 40% of their income, even though a lot of workers' compensations covers a lot higher, but it doesn't cover like weekend work or overtime or all of these things that, in the work that they were doing. They got paid a lot more than what their base rate is. And so, we were talking about this income protection that they're eligible for will pay the difference. So we're covered for 70% of their income. Workers' compensation will cover 40%. And so, the additional 30% will be covered from the income protection. And then over time, that workers' compensation after 12 months really drops off to almost nothing. So it was a really interesting discussion talking about, their claim and, if they're able to go back to work and earn a decent living again, then income protection will just reduce as their income ramps up over time. But it's fairly early on in the client situation, so we'll see kind of where it ends up. But it'll be a really interesting case long term if we do need to make a TBD claim on that own occupation, because physically, okay, and no issues, but from a mental health point of view, talking about these KPMG stats and how much the claims are going up, we've got these clients going through these claims that we've got to deal with, kind of those nuances and the difficulties, and we have no issues. Or we try and be very insurer friendly at Skye. We look at profitability and understand, but at the end of the day, if our clients need a claim and it's a legitimate claim and they've been paying their premiums, we have no issues going into bat for our clients. So
I think a lot of white collar workers, they come to us and they say, why do I need that own occupation definition? And it is for those mental health or mental capacity sort of injuries that could lead you to be permanently disabled.
Yeah, and it costs more. This client paid a bit more in their premiums, and they didn't actually have the policy for that long. Less than 12 months they've had this policy for. So a lot of discussions around because a lot of our clients, they sign up for the policies trusting us that, hey, we've recommended these policies, they're going to be the right fit for them. But at the end of the day, like going into claim and understanding how all that works and the nuances of the policy, people only start reading the PDS once they need a claim. And that's where it's really important to just have that conversation about how it looks, understanding these offsets from the workers' comp, all of that nuances, which we think about a lot, as you talked about with your client. We think about a lot up front. What's the claim experience going to be? But people are going through these difficult times. And as I said, I think I've said last few weeks, I deal with the claims. So I deal with the not as, I guess it's good because, people are getting money and you've got to sell them a bill. Hopefully they never get any money on return, but I'm talking to the people who are claiming. So, it just kind of motivates me to go, okay, this is super important. These clients may never have gotten this cover if it wasn't for us helping them throughout the process. Yeah,
for sure. And so, Phil, how come you're in a different studio today?
So I'm up in Newcastle. Glenn James sent me a message on Saturday or Sunday and said, come up for the day. And I said, I've got some meetings I can't miss, but able to organise a calendar. So I came up for the day. So I'm recording some videos and podcasts with Glenn and a few other people up here for some different podcasts. So that's why I'm up here in this exciting studio. This is much more impressive than ours. Ours is impressive, but this is this is fully kitted out.
I feel like I've heard there's moving cameras that happen as well.
I think one of them can, but I don't think it's set up for the moment to move. But yeah, there's literally 7 cameras in this one setup, so it's very impressive. But yeah, I'm just up here for the day, then fly back. So I'll be back in the office tomorrow. But you're not going to be in the office tomorrow, so that's all right.
But you will be back in time for Friday.
I will be back. That's what we're going to talk about. What are we doing this Friday?
This Friday, the studio's been taken over and turned into a table tennis competition.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've got to warm up. I went and bought new table tennis balls, and I got. Did you see them?
I don't know
I've
if I showed you.
seen, yeah. You got
Yeah,
twos
I
and
showed-
threes. We don't know what that means,
got-
but
I got 2-star balls for the normal competition and then 3-star balls. Yeah, no idea what the stars mean, but the 3 stars were more expensive. So I got them for the finals, or maybe the semi-finals and finals. But
do we have a verification that the package hasn't been tampered with yet before the competition to make sure you haven't rigged
Hey,
it?
you can do it. You know, actually, what I'm most interested in is looking at my calendar to see if we need the studio set up, or if I can set up for training. Yeah, I want to set it up for training. Maybe you could ask Peter if we can set up a training session.
I'm pretty sure he's indicating not just yet.
Okay, all right.
From Wednesday
Maybe-
onwards.
Yeah.
So,
awesome.
that gives you time. Yeah.
How is your table tennis skills? I don't know if I've seen you play table tennis.
I haven't played table tennis since maybe my 18th. So
Okay.
nearly 10 years. Been a while.
Right.
I'm going to crush you. If I don't win, I'll be so disappointed. I will be really disappointed.
I think it will come between you and Seb again.
Nah, Seb's got no chance. It's actually Bill Zakos.
Ah,
From
is he coming in?
PBS.
He's coming in for it. He's specifically cleared his schedule for it. So he's my hot favourite for the win. But I'll
Yeah,
lot of
you
smack
two
talk
had
to
a
try and get him
big
off his game.
competition in Bali.
yeah, we've gone at it a lot, and he beat me majority of the time. So excited for that. We're going to record it. We're going to put it up on YouTube if I win, and we're going to delete all evidence of it if I don't. No, just kidding. We'll put it up either way. Awesome. Thank you, Ash. Hey, I think we're done for this week. Appreciate it. Appreciate you accommodating me not being there, and I think it's worked out. So
Good to chat, Phil. See you next time.
have a good rest of your week.
See you.